UFC Fight Night Vegas 97, Burns versus Brady takes place this weekend, and I'm going to go through the entire card, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main event, giving my prediction and breakdown for every single fight on the card, starting with the early prelim open of Zygimantas Ramaska versus Nathan Fletcher. I'm going to go against Nathan Fletcher. Now, I know he's from the UK, and I know I was hyping him up for a long time on the regional scene. However, this dude don't know when to lead the dance. Saw it on Tough, ended up losing his first fight. We found out he's had a broken leg, but he didn't even know about it, so it can't have been that bad. But Zygimantas Ramaska also got injured on Tough. He had an eye injury. He had a really great scrap where he put it all on the line and had a really fun fight and left it all out there. And what I'm thinking is, Nathan Fletcher is a bantamweight. He's a bantamweight. And he needs to have some kind of physical presence in order to lead the dance. At featherweight, this guy he's facing is 5'11". He's a rangy dude, very big for the weight class. He's fought at lightweight before, and now he's coming back down to featherweight because it's what he fought on Tough, and now he's trying to do a featherweight run in the UFC. Finally, I guess he wasn't going through 10-week training camps to get his weight down on a regional scene. But I'm going to go with Zygimantas Ramaska. Nathan Fletcher just is a bantamweight. I don't like when UK fighters do this. They say, oh, you know, I'm going to move up and try out a different weight class. Now, if you're Sam Patterson and you're 6'3" at lightweight and want to try out welterweight, that's a different story. Nathan Fletcher, you're 5'8". Bantamweight, man. Be a big bantamweight. You're a grappler, heavy grappler. Push forward. You're a pressure fighter. Why are you moving up to where you're going to be the smaller man against these guys? I think it's going to give him problems. We've seen him face like a rangier guy in Dominic Wooding, who's not as rangy as Zygimantas Ramaska, who is able to sort of keep him at bay and use his length to keep himself up off the ground. And I'm going to go with Ramaska here, getting this one done by maybe late rounds, TKO, or a decision. We move on. Andrade Petroski versus Dylan Budka. Now, Dylan Budka's awful at fighting. I actually said if he lost his last fight, I'd no longer make MMA YouTube videos, and he lost. So I'm a liar. But that's okay, because Dylan Budka's a liar as well. He lied about all of his wrestling credentials. He can't take down a guy who has no wrestling experience, no grappling experience, a pure kickboxer that came to MMA. He's lied. He never did wrestling. Don't know why they have that all over the internet and all of these pictures of him at, at like championships where he's getting medals put on him. All of it is AI. All of it is fake. He has a fake career. There's no way he wrestled ever before because he couldn't control a pure kickboxer that learned the idea of 2-on-1 wrist control. So I'm going to go with Andrade Petroski. Although he did get KO'd in his last fight by someone's hip, I think he's quite skilled and he probably has better MMA grappling and he likely has better stand-up than Dylan Budka as well. So I'm going to go with Andrade Petroski here, even though I do worry about his awful, despicable, diabolical chin that he has. We move on. Up the card, Jaqueline Amorim versus Vanessa Demopoulos. Now, Vanessa Demopoulos has been working very hard backstage at a lot of these UFC events, and because of that, she gets given every decision ever, even when she clearly fucking loses. So that's a real weird thing that seems to keep happening in her career. So a part of me wants to go, I think Jaqueline Amorim will win, so I'm going to go with Vanessa Demopoulos just for fun, because if Amorim does win by decision, it will be swiftly taken away from her and given to Vanessa Demopoulos. However, Amorim showed a really good finishing ability in her last fight. She took out Corey McKenna, who I think is okay skill-wise at fighting. Like, she actually looks like she trains now and then. And Amorim beat her with an armbar. She beat Montserrat Ruiz, third round finish in the fight before that. Lost to Sam Hughes, which is just embarrassing. But if you watch that fight, she just didn't have the strength to get a submission over her. She had all of the control. She had all of the back taken and the rear naked choke was put in. But she legitimately didn't have enough squeeze in her frail arms to finish a rear naked choke. We see this a lot in women's MMA. We just saw this with Zhang Wei Li and Yan Xiaonan. It's like a weird thing where they get the rear naked choke, but they're literally too weak to even finish it from there. So it's a weird one, but I'm going to go with Jaqueline Amorim, though. I think she's far better skill-wise than Vanessa Demopoulos. She seems like she's getting a lot better on the feet as well. She's quite small for the division, but I think she's going to do okay, and I think she's been building into the division. She looked a little bit larger in her last 2 fights than she did when she made her UFC debut, and she trains at a really good team, American top team. I trust the gym. I trust the time. She's a young fighter. She's 29. Fuck it. Either way, I'm going to go with Jaqueline Amorim. Getting this one done. Vanessa Demopoulos is hot garbage. She's just garbage. I don't want to say she's hot. Just saying. There's that Penguin from Gotham series I used to watch. Either way, move on. Gabriel Santos versus Yizha. Now, you got to take these Far East records with a pinch of salt, in my honest opinion. You really do, because they're not all what they seem. Now, this guy does have some good wins, and he's fought some good experienced. He hasn't fought anyone good. I'll be real with you guys. No one. Anyone he has fought good has beaten him. So we're looking at records like 1-1, 5-6, and 13 draws, or no contest. This guy's fucking just illegal as fuck. I don't know what he's doing to get 13 draws, no contests, and DQs. 1-1, 3-6, 1-0, 5-2, 0-1, 7-6, 1-1, 4-16, 3-1, 4-7, 8-7, 0-3. Fought a fucking 26-9 guy. I bet you he was really old. That's going to be my guess with this one. No. Okay, well, we might have something here. But then I'm looking at 4-7, 2-2, 11-10 when this guy was 18-2, like 6-5. He lost to a 24-11 opponent. Beat a 9-1 guy, but then 13-5 opponent. Lost to Jong Yong Lee, who just kind of got fraud checked in his fight in the UFC recently. I don't rate that at all. Like, what you doing fighting schmucks for that long? It's just weird to me. He's got a lot of fights. He's got a lot of experience. He's young. He's actually 27 years of age. But I'm going to have to go with Gabriel Santos in this fight. Gabriel Santos is very underrated. And even though he doesn't have as cool of a looking record with as much experience, he trains at a good gym. And his debut was against Lerone Murphy on short notice. And he took the guy to a split decision. And this is a Lerone Murphy that just walked down Edson Barboza. Now, I know Edson let him win, which was really weird because he refused to throw kicks. Just didn't want to the whole fight against Lerone Murphy. It was really strange. But this guy went to a split decision with Lerone Murphy and then was like mid-fraud check over David Onama, but got caught with an uppercut because Onama's a powerful guy. And he got put down, and that's where Onama did that cringe Israel Adesanya celebration afterwards. But Gabriel Santos is very good. And he's back. He's took some time. He's been out for 1 year and 3 months. I like that. I like that he's been trying to improve his game. He's a young fighter, 27. No need to rush. He's in the UFC. This is his last chance because he's on a 2-fight losing streak. I reckon he beats this guy. The road to UFC ones are just... They might have a great looking record. They might have some cool looking KOs on the actual show because if you've ever watched Road to UFC, a lot of them do have some really nasty finishes. Seems to be a trend on the show. But typically they're shit. So I'm going to go with Gabriel Santos. We move on. Andrade Lima versus Felipe dos Santos. Now this is an interesting one to me because I think you can really go either way with this. I don't know who to pick. Felipe dos Santos maybe isn't as technical looking on paper, but he's a gritty fighter and he's 23 years old. That's impressive to me. Now you got Andrade Lima, who's had a bit of a weird career so far in the UFC. You know, he beat Igor Severino. It was a pretty competitive fight. He was getting the better of him, but the guy started biting him in the middle of the fight, and then they giving him the win by DQ. It was a weird situation. And then Mitch Raposo, though, this is worrying to me because I don't rate Mitch Raposo at all. Although he's quite technical and he's from a good gym, I just think he's not a fighter. Like, he's not capable. And Mitch Raposo missed weight for the fight. I get it. The guy took him to a split decision, and Raposo stepped in on very, very short notice. I don't like that. Felipe dos Santos, very difficult to put away. We saw that in the Manel Cap fight, who's a very explosive flyweight. Even if you don't think he's very good, at least you have to say he's a powerful dude with a lot of finishing potential for the division. So I'm going to go with Felipe dos Santos. He's the underdog. I'm a little bit 50-50 on this. I think he's the underdog. I would assume that he's the underdog. I'm going to double check it right now. He is. I'm going to go Felipe dos Santos here. I'm going Felipe dos Santos, getting this one done. I think as the fight goes on, he'll do a little bit better. Andre Lima's probably a more technical and explosive guy earlier. But I think if this fight gets scrappy, I can see Felipe dos Santos taking over. And he's very, very young. He's been out for a while now. He's coming off a win, which is good. And he's 23 years old. I like that. I think he's going to win this fight. Listen, Andre Lima's very young as well. We got Felipe dos Santos. He's got reach. He's got a good amount of reach. Things get scrappy. I'm going to go with him. I'm going to go Felipe dos Santos as an underdog here. Because I'm a little 50-50. Yeah, I'm going to go Felipe dos Santos. We move on. I love the Manel Cap performance. He gave Manel Cap a real run for his money in his debut. And that wasn't like a Manel Cap who was fighting Makayev who's scared to fight because he's not a fighter. Well, he literally isn't because he's unemployed now. But either way, yeah, he gave Manel Cap a scrap, and it was a fucking scrappy fight, and he stuck in there and had a really good fight with him. So I guess we find out if Andre Lima is Manel Cap level, because this is going to be probably a stand-up fight. I'm going with the underdog, Felipe dos Santos. We move on. Isaac Dulgarian versus Brendon Marotte. Now, Isaac Dulgarian is literally a 25-1 favorite. He is a ridiculous favorite in this fight. The odds have him as a minus something thousand. He's going to win. He got robbed against Christian Rodriguez. I stand by that. Grappling only matters when your name ends in a V. It's unfair, okay? I reckon he'll be able to get this one done over Brendon Marotte. Brendon Marotte is a New England cartel fighter that isn't Rob Font or Calvin Kattar. Need I say more? He's fucking trash. Sorry. Needs to be said about New England cartel. Does it not? You got a team like the Fighting Nerds, and you know, okay, these guys are going to be good if they got a prospect coming up from that gym. But then you see New England Cartel, and they had Calvin Kattar, they had Rob Font, they got into the UFC, they had some big wins. They're still in the UFC, and they're still at the top of the divisions, but everyone else since then has been absolute fucking garbage and has had an absolutely laid up career against complete cans on the regional scene, paid to lose to them. I'm going to have to go with Brendon Marotte. Dude lost to Terrence McKinney. That's a bad look. Shelled up. Let him finish him. Basically just shelling up. I'm going to go with the guy who's not from New England Cartel that's not named Calvin Kattar, Rob Font, because they're literally all complete garbage. So I'm going with Isaac Dulgarian to absolutely ragdoll and finish this guy in the first round. That's my read. We move on. Ovince St. Preux versus Ryan Spann. I'm going to go with Ryan Spann. It's fucking OSP in 2024 September. Now, Ryan Spann has a knack for being terrible in moments, but he's powerful, and he swings hard, and he's in his prime, and he's a huge dude for the division. And OSP is absolutely washed and has been for years. I mean, you'd have to be as shit as a sauced up John Jones to take this guy to a decision. Even Felipe Lins takes him out of there in 50 seconds. So I'm going to have to go with Ryan Spann. He's a level above Kennedy Nzechukwu, who, even though OSP just beat, kept it very competitive with him. So I'm going to go with Ryan Spann getting a KO over OSP, obviously. We move on. Up the card, Rongzhu versus Chris Padilla. Now, this Chris Padilla guy got a lot of credit, right, for beating Lontop. James Lontop, I think his name is. He recently fought Vyacheslav Borshev. I don't rate Chris Padilla. I don't. He's young. He's coming up. He had some good wins before he got into the UFC. He was on a 3-fight win streak, but he lost to some schmucks, man. He lost to some bad guys. And he's been losing for a while. Now, he's been doing this for a while. He's actually been an amateur for he started as an amateur 11 years ago. So he's been doing it since he was able to legally do it. So he's had a reasonably long career, but Rongzhu is 24. Young, been on a streak since getting cut from the UFC after losing to Ignacio Bahamondes. By the way, he was 1-2 in the UFC. He lost to Vargas, which is awful to lose to. Brandon Jenkins he beat. Ignacio Bahamondes he lost to, but Bahamondes missed weight, I think. That's what it says here. And other than that, he beat some good opponents. He's been fighting higher level opponents now. He fought really good, actually good competition in UAE. No, not UAE, but road to UFC. And he's been staying active as well, so he's healthy. I like that. I think he's going to go out there and have a good performance against Chris Padilla. And I think he's going to be an evolved fighter now that he's coming up to 24 years of age. He's 25-5 at 24 years of age. That's good. I like that. I think he's going to get this one done over Chris Padilla. We move on. Up the card to another fight, which is Trevor Peek versus Yanal Ashmouz. The return of Peek. I'm going to go with Yanal Ashmouz, I think. He's very powerful. He's, I'm going to go with him getting this one done. The Red Fox, got that ginge in him. That's dangerous. That's powerful right there. He beat Sam Patterson KO. He has some good KOs on the regional scene. Chris Duncan is a tough guy, and Yanal Ashmouz actually fought him with a broken arm. He broke his arm off a kick in round 1 and then continued to go to a decision with him. So I thought that was reasonably impressive. He's had a long time off, over a year, so he's going to be ready. He's going to be healthy. I think Trevor Peek's just a little bit too hittable coming in sometimes, and I think Yanal Ashmouz is primed to land big KO blows as a guy rushes forwards. I'm, of course, going to be rooting for Trevor Peek, but he's too hittable. Way too hittable, and Yanal Ashmouz hits very, very hard. So, yeah, I'm going to go against Trevor Peek. I'm going to go with Yanal Ashmouz getting this one done, probably by TKO. That's my guess. But I hope Trevor wins, and I'm going to be rooting for him, of course. We move on. Matt Schnell versus Alessandro Costa. Matt Schnell's the chinniest fighter in UFC history. He has a bad chin for flyweight, which is tough. It's just tough. Because it's not like, oh, try out fighting smaller opponents. What are you going to go? Nugget League? There's no smaller opponents. He's got a cooked chin at flyweight, and Alessandro Costa is a very explosive, powerful flyweight with really good power. Really strong, really fast twitch muscle. Got good grappling, so I don't see Matt Schnell dominating him there or anything like that. Matt Schnell got wobbled a bunch by malnourished Suma Dwerji. This is over. Alessandro Costa's going to put him away in round 1 brutally. Sorry. We move on. Kyle Nelson versus Steve Garcia. I'm going to go with Steve Garcia over Kyle Nelson. I just don't like picking Canadian men. They always lose, other than Kyle Nelson. So good for him. You know what I mean? He's paving the way. I just have a thing to not pick Canadian men. Not in the Jones way, I'm giving out dating preferences, but I'm talking in terms of when it comes to fights, I just don't like picking him to win. I think this guy's defying the odds. And we're just watching it happen. Oh my God, he's literally fucking challenging the gods of men, that have destined him for being a loser, because he's Canadian and male. Which is kind of, you got to start putting that parenthesis when it comes to Canadian men, because is there any? You know what I mean, is what we're wondering. Steve Garcia is retarded. He's going to win because of it, most likely. He's weird looking. That's an advantage. Shows good sign of inbreeding. Inbred people are stronger. We know this. Trains at Jackson Wink. Great gym. And they're a soul-focused gym. And he's one of their focuses right now. And he's beat some pretty good opponents. Malik Costa, Sungwoo Choi, smoked him both. Shailan Nodi and Mbeke smoked him as well. Chase Hooper put him away brutally in the first. And Chase Hooper's no joke. So I'm going to go with him beating Kyle Nelson. I've got Steve Garcia getting this one done by decision or KO. We move on. Up the card. Jessica Andrade versus Natalia Silva. I'm going against Andrade. I'm going to go with Natalia Silva. She's really good on the back foot. She's very good at mitigating when people are trying to sort of track her down and throw bombs at her. And she's good at range control. I think this is her type of fight where she's going to tee off on a smaller, shorter Jessica Andrade for 3 rounds. Because we've seen it happen to Andrade against lesser fighters. There's been lesser opponents that have been able to outstrike Andrade. She got outstruck by Erin Blanchfield, who's never been shown how to throw a punch in her life, which is embarrassing, really. And although Jessica Andrade does beat up on some of these women's strawweights, it feels like when she does move up to flyweight, that energy does kind of change a little bit, and she's getting more and more open to getting caught by some of these female fighters. So I'm going to go with Natalia Silva. She does have a few losses, but she's on a hell of a win streak right now. She started out her career fighting Marina Rodriguez early in her career, and she ended up losing that one. And then a few losses to begin her career as well. But she was like 6-5, and now she's 17-5. So she's on an 11-fight win streak, maybe 10. I'm not sure if it was counting that. No, she's on an 11-fight win streak since 2018. She's done nothing but win, and she's been like tuning girls up in the UFC. Beat Vivian Araújo clearly, beat up on Andrea Lee, destroyed Victoria Leonardo, destroyed Teresa Blader. It was a brutal watch. Beat up on Jasmine Jasudavicius. She's 5-0 in the UFC now. This isn't some prospect who's gone 3-0 and now they're just chucking her to Andrade. No, she's earned it. I reckon she'll win the fight, and she's a young fighter as well. 27 years of age, coming into her prime. Still going to be developing every single fight, and she's had a bit of time off as well between. She's had 7 months, good amount of time to get some improvements in. I'm going to go with Natalia Silva over Jessica Andrade. We move on to the main event. Gilbert Burns versus Sean Brady. I'm going with Sean Brady. Age difference adds up to nearly a 70% win rate when it comes to ranked contenders and just fighters in general. I think UFC fighters. I think it adds up to about a 70% win rate. And I feel like when they're actually high ranked, it even goes further than that. I know that Gilbert Burns has looked good in fights. And Sean Brady got KO'd by Belal Muhammad, or TKO'd. It was pathetic looking, but that's Belal. But he destroyed Kelvin Gastelum. Absolutely embarrassed him. There's the Chiesa fight worry, but Chiesa's a big, strong dude, and he did win the second. He got his nose busted. It is what it is. Beat on Jake Matthews, got him down, choked him out. A submission win over Jake Matthews is actually very underrated, in my opinion. I think that's a pretty good win. I just think he's massively improved. He's finally hitting some kind of prime. He neutralized Craig Jones in a grappling match, and Burns got like easily leg locked nearly a few times by Craig Jones, eventually having to tap to it. I'm going to have to go against Gilbert Burns here. I'm going with Sean Brady. I'm going with a younger fighter. Gilbert Burns, just reading it out to you guys, is 38 years of age. He's had a bit of time off since the Jack Della Maddalena fight because it was a brutal loss. He hasn't really, though. 6 months. He's staying reasonably active, and I don't even like that. I was going to say I don't like how much time he's had off, but that was a really brutal loss. And I know a lot of people are going to say he was out controlling JDM, and when people get control time on JDM, it means more for some fucking bizarre reason. Even though we don't count takedowns in any other fucking fight. But when it's JDM, they count. He out-damaged Burns in round 1 and was out-damaging him in round 3. It was 1-1. It should have been. I know the scorecards had Burns because it's JDM, so grappling counts now. But he didn't do anything to JDM. He landed a couple of good shots early. Most of them were blocked. He threw a head kick that ended up breaking JDM's arm in round 1. And he still couldn't do anything in the second round. I don't like that. I don't like that people are just saying, oh, look how he looked against Chimaev. I'm not into that whole look how he looked against Chimaev shit. Usman fought him on 1 week's notice, upper weight class. Usman's washed, and he took that guy to a decision that Chimaev arguably should have lost. Like, I'm not rating how you look against Chimaev. If it goes past the first round, especially. The guy immediately becomes a far lesser fighter. I'm going with Sean Brady. Technical, if you look at the Belal Muhammad fight back, he was actually kind of outstriking Belal pretty easily, but he just got overwhelmed because Belal was still there pushing him. Gilbert Burns is not that level of pressure fighter. He's a bit more of a shot picker, and I think that's going to work for Sean Brady a bit better. And I just think Brady can sort of stall him out on the ground if he wants to by being stronger, bigger. I'm going to go with Sean Brady. I've got Brady winning this one. I'm not seeing the same Burns as we saw when he was duking it out with some of these guys. And even against Masvidal, he looked a bit tame. And Masvidal had moments where he almost could have took a round, and Burns only got it because he got a takedown at the end. I just don't see Burns being able to steal shit with his takedown at the end of the round game here. So I'm going to go with Brady winning the majority of the fight. And therefore, I'm going to go Brady with decision, maybe. I'm going to say it's a very slow-paced fight. He's got Burns hesitant. There's grappling exchanges here and there that get stalled out. And I'm looking at a really boring main event win for Sean Brady here is what I think is going to happen. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Toodle pip. I'll see you later. And goodbye.